And both powers, the United States and Soviet Union, will do a lot of things to attract these newly independent countries. So we can say that the first modernization theories are very influenced or are born in the context of the Cold War. They are mostly Americans. And in a way, they are the response or the legitimization of American policy by a theoretical and a scientific view. So the theorists, and don't forget this because it's important, because we may sometimes think that a theory is neutral or is scientific, so it can be accepted. But in a way, modernization theories legitimize the American policy preoccupation. They were to give the scientific arguments that explain why developing countries should stay and should follow the model of free world. Because at that time, the socialist model had also a lot of success. So the modernization theories follow this way, and they respond in a way to the American preoccupations. What is the American preoccupation at that time? It is to consolidate its power, of course. It's also to find new markets, but they are exactly the same preoccupation as Soviet Union at that time. It is then to promote its ideology. It is to find markets for its goods. It is to stabilize the world. So the context is really the Cold War, and it's the context of fear of communism. But also, what explains the success of the modernization theory and the way also that American policy began at that time was that Americans, well, some people explain it like that. I think it could be understood. Some people say that the American policy and the modernization theories just corresponded to the time that USSR gave some help, international aid, to Afghanistan. Afghanistan at that time was not in the Soviet orbit, but the USSR had good relations with Afghanistan, and maybe this fact just quickened, fastened the international aid of United States. It also corresponds to the containment, of course, theory. So this is the context. Now, what are the arguments that were used by this modernization theory to explain why the others should stay in the free world? And every theory has, of course, its arguments to explain why people should do this way rather than the other way. Today, the globalization point of view, the neoliberal globalization point of view, is to explain why everyone has advantage to stay in the market system. You can be, you can agree with it or not agree with it, but that's what they also the theories do. So what are the ideas of this theory? The first one is that all the societies have the same characteristics. All the societies have the same history and follow the same way, which means that the way of defining underdevelopment will be that as all the society are the same, the only difference between societies is that some are not in the same position. They are, my French has, I don't have the English word, en retard. Who knows French? Behind. They are behind the others, en retard. They are not on the same step. They are behind, excuse me. They are behind. So all the society are quite, have the same characteristic, but the difference is that some of them are behind the others. So there's no problem. So you see that the way the history is seen, and this is why we use developing. Some societies are underdeveloped, they can become developing, and afterward they will develop. They will become, and that's what everybody hopes, they become developed. So this is what is modernization. It's the tool used to get developed, and developing process is seen as non-problematic. So if some countries are being seen as being behind, the only thing to do is to give them the tool to fill the gap and to get developed. This is, of course, not the way radical theory sees the thing, but anyway, this is how modernization theories see the world. So as they are late in development, they can do some things to fill the gap, and so they can, all the societies in the modernization view are in transition. There are some traditional ones, there are some modern ones, and everyone is somewhere in this scale, is somewhere on this scale. So you climb the scale and you can get developed. Of course, it's not so easy. Unfortunately, it's not so easy. So how do these modernization theory see the society and the world? They see it in dichotomic view. There are traditional opposed to modern. There is agriculture opposed to industry. There is backwardness opposed to modernity. And that now I know the world. So some societies are backward compared to the developed one. So the way they see history and the world is quite easy. And as we are in the 1950s, as I told you just before, and the way and Western countries are in this golden 60s and think that everything is possible, but so what they will do is to give the others, of course, by international aid, what they need to catch up. And what the wealthy, developed countries can give the others is, for example, technology. We will see that giving technology is not so unproblematic as they thought, but anyway, so the tools that will be used and presented to others in order to develop, in this view that everyone is in transition to get developed, will be attribution and giving international aid, giving, presenting high advanced technology, industrialization, everything that can help to fill the gap. And what is very interesting at that time is the belief that technology is value-free. But of course, let me give an example, not to stay only theoretical. Technology is not so value-free. It has some consequences. Let me talk about one example. One example that has been used a lot in sociology is, for example, giving the possibility of modernizing water connection. One example, it is that when people working in cooperation go in some neighborhoods where there is not water connection, the first thing that we do, because we are used to open the tap and have water, and if it's not very warm, we are not very happy. In some places, there is not this water. So when we go there, we think, okay, we will just build what is necessary for the water connection. And it happened in the 1950s, and it happens even now, that you do what you think that is really fantastic for to help the other, and especially in the developing world, the people in charge of water, of bringing water, are women. Women go to take the water, and they pass hours walking, taking the water, because there's still some places like that. So when you have built what is necessary, and the water came to the villages, recently we have had this discussion too, women don't use the water. So how is it? This is technology, and it can help. Why don't they use the water? Maybe you can say why they don't use the water. Does anyone knows that?
Because then they miss opportunity to gather together.
For example, yeah, this is the only way that they can socialize. They can be together, and also maybe see who will marry the other, socializing. So one example of technology not being value-free. Another example, also linked to women. We know and we saw that being in agriculture in Africa, or being in the factories in India, every time technology is introduced, for example, that factories are modernized and very sophisticated machines are introduced, or, for example, every time tracks are introduced in agriculture in Africa, people who were in charge of some works change. In agriculture in Africa, usually women are working. At least they work in what is everyday agriculture. In some factories, textile factories in India, of course, long ago, there were many women working. When technology was introduced, men took the place of women for the same jobs. In a way, machines are prestigious, and in a lot of societies, men have the prestigious work.